Today, we're going to dive into a really beautiful, timeless story. It's one of those simple parables that when you look closer, just unpacks this incredibly profound message about rescue, attraction, and what salvation really even means.
So let's start with a really tough question, one the whole story hinges on. How do you rescue someone who doesn't want to be saved? Think about it. This goes way beyond just physical danger, right? It gets to something really deep in our nature. How do you help someone who just keeps resisting the very help they need? Well, believe it or not, this story has a pretty surprising answer for us. All right, let's set the scene. Our story begins with a child who is lost. And not just lost, but completely entangled. We're talking about a child in the thorns. It all starts out, like so many great stories do, with a family on what seems like a totally normal journey. But then, things take a turn.
So just picture it, right? A family is traveling together through a forest. They decide to stop for a little rest in a quiet clearing. It's a totally peaceful, simple scene. But you know how it is? It's always in those quiet moments that the story really begins.
And while the parents are distracted for just a second, their little kid does what kids do best. He gets curious. Maybe he saw a cool butterfly or a bright flower, and he just wanders off to go check it out.
Yep, that's where the trouble starts. In his little adventure, the child walks right into this dense, super thorny thicket. He's completely surrounded, totally entangled. Every single move he makes, he risks getting pricked by these sharp thorns. He is well and truly stuck.
Now here's where things get really interesting, kind of paradoxical. The parents, of course, they're frantic. They start calling out to him, but their voices are urgent, they're scared, and that just scares the kid even more. So instead of running towards them for help, what does he do? He pulls back, pushing himself even deeper into all those dangerous thorns.
So clearly, the direct approach is a total fail. In fact, it's making everything worse. The whole situation feels pretty hopeless until a stranger shows up with a totally different idea.
So this person walking by sees how distressed the family is, takes one look at the situation, and says something absolutely crucial. He gets something that the parents, in their panic, just can't see. You can't force the kid out. No way. You have to change the whole game.
And his plan is, it's completely counterintuitive. He says, forget about the danger. Stop trying to force an escape. Instead, his idea is to create this irresistible atmosphere of joy right outside the thorny bush. So he goes and gets other kids from a nearby village. He gives them toys to play with, snacks to eat, and just lets them have fun right there, near the thicket. He doesn't even mention the boy who's trapped inside.
And what do you know? It works like a charm. The trapped child hears all that laughter. He sees the cool toys. He probably smells the snacks. And suddenly, the desire to join in on the fun becomes way stronger than his fear. So all on his own, without anyone yelling at him or ordering him, he carefully finds his own way out of the thorns to go join the party.
What a great story, right? But like with any good parable, the real magic isn't just in the story itself, it's in what it all means. So let's start decoding this thing. Let's uncover the deep spiritual metaphor that's hiding in plain sight.
Okay, so the first piece of the puzzle you need to know is a concept called sansar. See, in this story's tradition, sansar, that's the thorny thicket. It's meant to represent our worldly existence, the whole cycle of life, full of all the attachments and struggles and desires that can get us all tangled up, just like that little boy in the thorns. Okay, so here's where it all clicks together. The child, that's not just some kid. That represents the human soul, what's called the jiv. The thorny thicket, we just learned that sansar, the tangled up world we live in. And the parents' calls? Those symbolize those forceful, direct methods, the commands and maybe even threats that just don't work. And the best part, the other kids and the toys, that's God's divine play. It's this powerful, loving, attractive force that gently lures the soul back to where it belongs.
So you see, this whole thing isn't really a story about brute force or just blindly obeying commands. Not at all. It's a story about the power of illusion. It's about a divine, playful game that's actually designed to rescue us.
And that's the absolute key takeaway here. The path to freedom isn't a command you have to obey, it's an invitation you get to accept. The soul isn't yelled at to get out of its mess, it's lovingly and playfully attracted, drawn out by something way more beautiful and joyful than the place where it's stuck.
And to make that attraction happen, the source material says the divine doesn't just stay distant and watch from afar. No, it gets right in there. It joins the game. It takes on roles that we can relate to, like a friend or even a son or a servant. Anything to build a real relationship that can gently pull the soul out of the thicket.
Now, this is a really beautiful spiritual idea, for sure. But it also has a super powerful lesson for our own lives, doesn't it? For our own thorny thickets that we all get stuck in from time to time.
I mean, think about the stuff we all get tangled up in, right? Bad habits, negative thought patterns, tough situations. What's our first instinct? Usually, it's brute force. We try to fight our way out with just sheer willpower. Kind of like the parents just shouting at the kid. But this story is suggesting a much wiser path. What if the answer isn't to keep fighting the thorns? What if it's to create something joyful? Something so compelling that it just naturally pulls us out?
And that really leaves us with a big question to think about. If you feel stuck in some way right now, what's your thorny thicket? And maybe more importantly, instead of trying to just force your way out, what joyful call, what game, what amazing thing could you create for yourself right outside of it that would make leaving those thorns behind the easiest, most natural choice in the world?